Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the Coffee Cast Reddit CastIt edition, where today we'll be featuring a fairly high-level TvT, and if you guys didn't already know, I freaking love TvT. It's actually one of my favorite matchups to watch. So it's spawning on the bottom right-hand side of Alterzim Stronghold. Looks like we are still on an older ladder edition map, so maybe a little bit older of a replay, but that's okay. We have TheWalrus as our red Terran player, and I have no reason to believe otherwise that this is not the actual player, so I'm just going to go with it. We have Axiom's Crank off racing as Terran hand side, and real fast if I can just pull up the chat log. I think I saw something about that. Jelly Jeff, you're awesome, by the way, thanks. I'm Terran, you know that, right? Yeah. I'm just assuming that this is the real Axiom Crank, just being a super mannered guy. You'd be like, hey, you know I'm not playing my main race this time around, right? I mean, there's something different going on. Just a quick PSA for anybody that goes to our CastIt and likes to upload replays. There have actually been a couple of replays recently that I have skipped over because they say exactly what's happening in the game. For instance, there's one right now that tells me, hey, we base trade 4 times, and I don't know about other casters, but I specifically will skip over those because it makes it less fun as a caster when I know exactly what's going to happen in the game. So just generally, you can be like, oh, this was a fun macro game, but, don't say, like, oh, 2 Banshee Battle Cruiser Triple Raven opening or something, because I like to guess as I go along, and I know a lot of other casters do as well. So we are in cross-spawn positions here. Axiom Crank going to be going probably with a Reaper opening, I can only assume here. Getting that gas a little bit earlier than that barracks there. Going to get the 50 gas about the time that the barracks is finished up. And TheWalrus going maybe a little bit more of a macro build here. Just skipping out on the gas means that he's probably just going to do the 1 barracks into command center. Also, I would like to say real fast, I'm having a weird issue with this new mouse of mine where sometimes I can click and drag and sometimes it doesn't want to. Right now it's being fairly responsive. I think I'm getting the trick down with it, but if I have some problems with that, I apologize in advance. Now, this is interesting out of Axiom's Crank here. He's getting a 2nd barracks down here. Is this the, I can't remember, Alterzim, is this the back base on this map? Yeah, it is. So he's hiding a 2nd barracks down in his back base here. Alterzim Stronghold, a very, very big map, and I don't think Crank realizes yet that, oh my goodness, we're cross-spawn right now. So he has a very long ways to go to be able to catch up to his opponent here and try to do a little bit of damage across the map. It looks like it is going to be that triple Reaper build. A lot of the time you'll see Terrans do this off of 1 barracks, but Crank really wanting to get a lot of Reapers out really fast here. SCV is going to pop up in here, is going to be able to see that 2nd racks. Walrus is going to know that, okay, there's going to be a little bit of pressure going on here. He's already seen the 1 Reaper. He saw that with his SCV as he was coming out, so he'll know that he's going to really want to pump out Marines, right? Walrus, there we go. Actually, could really use another barracks too. Gonna be getting a bunker here. So he knows that with seeing that extra barracks, he knows that there's going to be some sort of aggression. I don't think he realizes how many Reapers are going to be on the map. There's 2 more in production. That's going to bring us up to 5 total Reapers, which is just insane. And to think about that, at this point in this game, that's a 250 gas investment right there. That's not minerals. That's not another command center faster. So Walrus, even if he does lose some SCVs, he has a little bit of leeway here because he has that extra command center sooner. He'll have a 2nd orbital sooner, just pretty much more SCVs sooner, so he can afford to lose a little bit here, but I don't know, 5 Reapers versus Marines, that is a lot of damage output. Reaper's going to be jumping up into the base, revealing his hand just a little bit here. Reaper's immediately going to work, do not want to engage those Marines, getting 1 Reaper immediately. Nice job by the Walrus, focusing that one down, not really letting too much of the damage get split up between all 3 of the Reapers. So for the moment, looks like he's going to be able to hold this off. I like that. I don't know if this is on purpose, but he has this extra SCV here. Can help soak up a little bit of damage, maybe do a little bit of surrounding. In fact, it's got to be on purpose. There's 2 SCVs right there. So in the meantime, he's going to be laying down his factory as well. If he even gets like a Hellion out, that would actually help a lot. Because while Hellions are light and do take that extra damage, they do have more health than a Marine, and, with that little straight line fire, a little bit of AoE versus 5 Reapers could help quite a bit. It looks like for the moment, though, the Walrus has defended this. I mean, he's not out completely in the clear yet, but he is in a much better position. It doesn't look like Crank really wants to push the issue right now, and is going to settle for just a contain for the moment. We do have Walrus. He does have his double gats right now. I'm almost scared to look away, because I know the moment I do, these Reapers are going to pop up in. No, they're just on patrol right now. Oh, yeah, I'm looking away for a moment here. So it looks like the command center is getting morphed into the orbital command there. We have the double gas on the main right now for Crank. Pretty much going into a little bit more of a standard setup here. Getting the tech lab on that factory. Probably going to be switched off onto that starport. I can only imagine it's going to be going up into maybe Banshees of some sort. Another Reaper does go down there. Anyways, Banshees maybe? I don't know. Those are too close together to not be switching off. Siege Tanks would have started by now. So, Reapers did take one more loss to their numbers, so that, just losing even one Reaper really diminishes the effectiveness of them, I guess. The reactor is open now. It looks like that might be for the factory, maybe Widow Mines. I would normally say that it'd be for the starport there, but it doesn't look like that starport is going to be lifting off anytime soon. And yeah, it is for the factory, so I'm assuming it's going to be double Widow Mine production coming out of the Walrus. Those Hellions just there for a little bit of early game defense. We'll keep an eye on that, see what it does decide to go for. Crank's out of the map, though. We do have that Banshee with cloaking coming onto the field while he gets his third CC very quickly here. The Walrus actually taking a very fast third CC as well. Somewhere around here. There it is, over here at the natural expansion. So both players looking to go into kind of an odd macro aggressive build. We have the Walrus moving out with a medevac drop, a couple of Hellions and some Marines in there, and we have Crank going for the cloaked Banshee build. So we'll see if the Walrus has, I guess, any energy left on these command centers. Hopefully for the Walrus that this drop will be able to scout out the fact that, oh my gosh, you know, this tech lab is on the starport. That can only mean Banshees. I guess, okay, look, fine. Yeah, you can have early Raven, but that is so rare. I have seen it, but it's so rare. The reactors are going down on the factory now. That's probably going to switch these two buildings off fairly shortly. Medevac going to be coming up into this natural expansion. Banshee looks like it's about halfway across the map right now. This could do quite a bit of damage. See how fast Crank's reaction time is here. Pulling, immediately losing one SCV, and that Mule almost getting taken out. Really not going to be able to do too much more, probably. It's losing a lot of mining time, and Mule's obviously on that timer there. Did cancel one of the refineries from building up, so this is maybe a little bit annoying right now for Crank, but not the biggest deal in the world. Walrus needs to make sure not to lose too many of these Marines here, needs to make sure to guard that medevac. In the meantime, the Banshee is coming in right as that missile turret finishes up. That Banshee going to go down, actually, I think. Crank not paying attention, that Banshee does fall down, so that's actually a pretty big investment there, not doing all that much for Crank. So Walrus, I'd say, takes maybe a little bit of an edge here. We'll have to see after this battle, though. If this medevac goes down, everything's going to even right back up. Seeing that, the Reapers doing quite a bit of work to those lesser health units there, those light units. And Walrus is going to eventually have to pick up and fly on out, losing most of the units of that drop, but he did manage to keep the medevac alive, which is a pretty big deal. That being said, it looks like he might be going into a mech play over here, building a couple of additional factories, so maybe that medevac staying alive isn't the biggest deal in the world, because he's not going to be going bio, he's not going to be investing a lot more resources into building medevacs. So, still, there's a little bit of pressure potential. Actually creating a Hellbat there, try to do a little bit of extra damage to those SCV lines. We do have that Banshee going out across the map. The medevac is scouting around that third base, sees that there's nothing there, but Crank, he noticed that. He's going to be running over to his natural here to defend that. This is not going to do that much, and this medevac, I can't imagine that medevac not dying, and there it does go down. In the meantime, that Banshee, he is lining up outside of that main base right now. That missile turret trying to go up, the SCV going to be taking down two missile turrets, almost getting finished there, but not quite. Excuse me. And Hellions come over to defend against this. Not going to be the most effective counter there. We do have one Viking on the field. No scans saved up as of now, though, as that Banshee is going to get away with the Viking nearby. A little bit frustrating for the Walrus, but he knows what's up. He knows that one Banshee is still out on the map, so hopefully he will be able to defend against that all right. And you can see he is going to be reestablishing those missile turrets right there. So it looks like... Oh, man, I have not been paying attention. It looks like it's going to be Mech versus Bio on the other side of the map, though. Crank, the thing is, with Mech versus Bio, you still want to maintain some sort of air superiority. Otherwise, the Vikings of your opponent are just going to rip your medevacs to shreds, and then you lose the healing power for your army, which is kind of one of the big things about that Bio army. You have two things as a Bio versus a Mech player. A, you have the healing power, that very fast, very quick healing potency of the medevac, and I am actually, like, all rolled up on my, there we go, I got rolled onto my microphone cord and I was having problems shifting around. You have the healing power, and then you also have, obviously, the maneuverability is such a big deal. So Hellions, a lot of Hellions on the map, kind of limits the maneuverability of that Bio in the early game by giving the mech player a little bit of maneuverability of his own. Might be able to cancel, or at least halt the production on that command center. Blue Flame Hellions running into this middle line, getting a couple of decent shots off there, getting quite a few decent shots off there, going to lose all the Hellions for the effort, which is, maybe a little bit of a misstep by the wall. Walrus. I think he could have maybe microed that a little bit better, but did get some SCV kills for it, and is going to get the other 4 Hellions out of the base and alive, so they'll be able to pop back in, do a little bit of damage in another time. That puts us up at 17 versus 3 workers killed. We have 59 to 50 harvesters in favor of Axiom's Crank still. So his macro just on par. That's so beautiful, losing 17 workers and still being ahead by a significant margin. Ravens are starting to come onto the field for the Walrus. These Hellions going to be going right around the rest of that bio army. Not going to be able to get too much more work done over in this mineral line. In fact, I don't even know if they took a single shot over into that mineral line. Not really doing much more. So losing an additional 4 Hellions for virtually free. I love this little supply depot wall right there, though, to help limit the attack paths of the Hellions. That means that the Hellions can only come in through this spot right here. So if Crank just puts his bio army there, he's good to go. He doesn't have much to worry about. Now Crank is scanning over here. He's seeing, I think this might be the first time the high number of Hellions does kind of give a good indication. The blue flame definitely, and then seeing the rest of this army, he can go, okay, yep, this is most certainly going to be a mech play. I know how to counter this, or at least he probably does. As a Protoss player, I can only imagine that he still does know a little bit of the TvT meta, so he'll know that he has that mobility advantage. You'll probably see him start lifting up, doing some drops. We can already see, oh man, he's dancing kind of back and forth here. It looks like he kind of wanted to commit to a little bit of aggression, maybe try to pick up and put off in the main base, but maybe remembered, hey, there's a lot of missile turrets over here. I don't know why exactly he's falling back home. Getting some siege tanks of his own. Just one so far. Actually, transitioning into that +1 weapons as well in the siege tanks. I think that's kind of interesting. Laying down 3 command centers. Oh my goodness. Probably going to be getting ready to go into that late game. I think he's already sensing that, okay, my opponent's going back mech. I know I'm going to be going into the super, super late end game. So let's get a lot of command centers now. I can start muling right now. And the earlier I can sacrifice my SCVs, the earlier I can get a nice, big, tasty bio army. That +2 armor is about to finish up. That puts our upgrades at a, well, pretty even actually. 2 weapons and 1 armor for, oh, that could have been really bad, that Widow Mine right there. Choosing to hit the Reaper that was out in the front. That's going to put the upgrades pretty even, though. 2-1, 2-1 for both of these players here. And it looks like Crank going to be able to get a nice little bit of surface area right now. Going to be moving up to the north. Actually, there's no base here, which means that this bio army just a little bit stranded against this mech army. He does not want to take that engagement. As the bio player, you do not want to get your army split up like this and lose little bits and pieces here and there. A scan does go down. It is going to miss this drop. This sensor tower, though, is going to be able to see the drop coming in, coming over towards that natural base. There is 1 missile turret currently prepared to defend against that. In the meantime, we do have a Widow Mine, a single Widow Mine trying to defend this left side here. There's a little bit of dual pressure coming out of Axiom Crank right now, deciding not in the end to go into that natural. He's kind of waffling about on that mini-map there. These units over here, this little Bioforce, not going to be able to do too much versus the siege tanks, and the Vikings are going to be able to at least take out 1 of the medevacs, I believe. But in the meantime, here come that 4 medevacs into the natural base. There's so many missile turrets here, though. Crank is going to have to turn around, losing 1 medevac immediately, and actually the other 3 are managing to get in here, but there's no escape for these medevacs. He's not going to be able to run out and save his army in this case. In the meantime, we do have another army, a pretty nice little bio army, and a couple of medevacs moving off to the left side. They're going to be able to drop into the 4th base. The reactors fall. That's going to limit the production just a little bit of the Walrus, but this is how you do want to play bio versus mech, for those of you TvT players out there, where, yeah, you know what, this might not be the best engagement. Yeah, you lost these medevacs, you lost your army, but you're pulling the mech army out of position. This mech army, very slow, very difficult to reposition. Look at the supply right now, 175 to 159 of the Walrus. He's going to have troubles remacroing right now. That's just what it comes down to. Mech costs so much, you're limiting the macro ability of your opponent. We can see this drop moving over into the the 4th base over here. That is a planetary fortress, not going to be able to do too much, but where's the mech army? Well, right now it's trying to stream through the main base. Where's the next portion of Crank's army? It's positioning outside of the 3rd base. Crank playing this beautifully right now. So far, though, I'm not going to take anything away from Walrus. He hasn't done too bad of a job yet. He should see with the sensor tower, though, that Crank is beginning to move into the 3rd base. He is not pulling his army back into position, unfortunately. A few Hellbats here to defend, a couple of unsiege tanks. That's not going to be enough. This is a pretty big bio army. A lot of very tanky Marauders in there are going to limit the potency of the Hellbats. And the command center forced to lift off. Never a good thing as a mech player when you really need all the resources you can get to max out as soon as you can. But you can see that Crank keeping Walrus's army supply down quite a bit. Walrus sitting at just 131 to the 160 of its opponent right now. And guess what? We have another little force of bio units sitting back home. We have some more across the map here. We have the mech army trying to give chase, but you know what? this isn't really that scary of a mech army. We have some Hellions, we have a handful of siege tanks here, but a bio army, if you catch this mech army out of position, will rip this apart. Walrus needs to play very safe. He should somehow try to set up a defensive line back home and just get his macro re-going right now. He's so low on minerals right now. He does have that 4th base, which is nice. It looks like we do have a couple of medevacs coming back into the main base, going to be able to take out a reactor, maybe even another tech lab, which would be great. Siege tank on the low ground there, going to be able to limit that drop a little bit. Not getting the most damage done there for Crank. In the meantime, though, we have an attack coming in over at that 4th base once again. But again, Planetary Fortress, 4 siege tanks going to make this attack maybe a little bit less scary. The mass repair on that Planetary Fortress going to lose a few SCVs for his trouble, but the base stays alive. In the meantime, once again, look at this Crank pushing in from the north, coming in towards, I would assume, that 3rd base. I don't know where he's going with that. Alright, we're going to sit back and re-macro up instead. Actually, there's still a battle going on over here. That's a Viking taking out a siege tank while the siege tank slowly wails away at that Planetary Fortress, which, by the way, has not yet resumed mining. I can feel Walrus maybe getting a little bit flustered here. He's getting pulled, every which way right now. Currently, he's just sitting here defending his 3rd base. He doesn't really have that strong of an economy right now, though. Sitting at 47 harvesters to the 69 of Crank. Crank doing an excellent job of playing bio this game. I'm loving it right now. Huge medevac drop. Once again, coming over here. This missile turret line, this isn't deterring Crank at all. He's just powering straight through it with medevac boost. And once again, a nice little bit of a hit squad going to be moving into that 4th base. Some Hellions moving out across the map. Some Hellions moving out over this way, which means that there's going to be less to defend in the immediate vicinity of his home. And one medevac does go down. Oh no, these medevacs in kind of a bad position. Going to be losing 2 of them. Not dropping their full payload yet. There we go. Going to get those units down onto the field. Doing a little bit of damage here. Once again, pulling the army out of position, and this will be the cue for Crank to move into that 4th base, and indeed it is. The army over in that natural going to be cleaned up, but scanning here, seeing the tanks and going, you know, I don't really want to engage that. That's going to be, I'm pretty much going to lose all my forces. I'm going to be happy with the damage I've done over here. He's taken out all of the missile turrets, so if Walrus wants to really defend this area, he has to put up like 5 more missile turrets. That's a lot of resources he has to invest, and we're seeing that, you know what, he's going to be doing just that, even throwing down a sensor tower. He's sick of these drops coming in where he can't quite see them, so that's a lot of resources that Walrus isn't putting directly into his army, and that really, really hurts. We see that he is getting his 3-3 upgrades. We have ship weapons and ship and vehicle weapons level 2 coming in for Crank. I haven't really seen much in the way of vehicles. Is that Banshee still alive? What? Okay, well, we still have a Banshee on the map, apparently. The Banshee's still on the field. So I guess I like that he's going for that. He is maxed out, so just kind of preemptive. It allows him to maybe switch it up a little bit if he... Whoa, I see where we're going with this. Battle cruisers, Yamato cannon, great at breaking up siege lines. By the way, the sensor tower, you guys aren't fooling anybody. He totally sees that you're there, right? Right. Oh, unfortunately, he totally sees that there's an army over at the 4th base as well. I don't know if Walrus knows which way to move right now. The army's coming over, it looks like, to defend the natural expansion. In the meantime, a big bio army moves into this 4th base right now. Drop going on in the natural. Just a few units getting off here and there. Point defense drone trying to help out with the defense a little bit. Again, SCVs pulled off the line, trying to do mass repair. A lot of siege tanks over here. And it looks like this army over here actually having their way for the moment. One medevac does still remain. This tank doing a lot of work. 15 kills on that captain. A lot of Hellions coming over to help defend as well. Those were a little bit out of position there. Eventually, again, they're going to clean it up. Eventually. But 44 workers have been killed so far by Crank, and I feel like the Walrus is really feeling it. Just not able to get a nice, strong economy up and running, which means that he just can't get that nice, strong mech economy, that mech army up and running. It's very difficult. Look at all this energy right here spent on point defense drones. That's not like a Hunter Seeker missile to take out medevacs. That's energy that he can't spend later on. It looks like for the moment, Crank is content sitting back and trying to remacro his army. His upgrades are absolutely phenomenal right now. Level 3 of weapons, level 2 armor, and level 3 ship weapons coming on the field, level 1 ship plating coming on the field, and battle cruisers, more certainly than not, are going to be coming on the field eventually as well. We're currently making the transition from this bio army, I feel, over into... Yep, battle cruisers right there. 3 starports, getting the 3 tech lab add-ons right now. Crank just content sitting back and going, okay, I see what you're doing. I've done a lot of economic damage to you. You haven't been able to get your mech army really strong and powerful. You go ahead and sit back and macro up, because I know in the long run, my macro is going to be just a little bit stronger than yours. Durable materials coming on the field, which, if I recall rightly, is the auto turret upgrade. excuse me, which should make the auto turrets, oh gosh, it's been so long, I think they last longer and they might have more health. That's not a very common upgrade, and I actually feel extends the duration of auto turrets and point defense drones. Okay, so no more health. I was gonna say, I really should know that. I really should. Orbital command coming down here, going to be landing over, is that a 6 base? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm getting that right. 7. Math is not my strong suit. Anybody who's casted before knows that you just kind of never, ever do math while you're trying to cast. It's ridiculous. Like, even basic arithmetic. It's ridiculous. Bio Army going to be moving again into the 4th base. This is going to free up supply, hopefully do a little bit of damage. So many tanks here. Needs to split up his army just a little bit there. There we go. That's good. A nice tank shot to start off that battle. The planetary fortress is getting focused down. Is it going to be enough firepower? It looks like it is going to be. 4th base goes down for the Walrus. That was the last major mining base because the main and the natural getting pretty darn close to mined out at this point. The rest of the mech army does come down to defend against it. But remember, this was just clearing out supply for Crank to make room for, you guessed it, battle cruisers. We are moving into Sky Terran right now over on Crank's side of the map. 6 Vikings in production at a time, 3 battle cruisers, even has a Banshee on that production tab as well. And with +3 weapons, the damage output is going to be so freaking high. Now, for those of you who don't know also, if you get the armor upgrades, all 3 armor upgrades for air, battle cruisers are, if my math is right, which, you know, once again, math is not great where you're casting, but if my math is right, battle cruisers are literally impossible to take down. I think they have like 6 armor or something by the end of it. I mean, they can just take up so freaking much damage. And actually, I've been playing just for fun unranked games where I do battle cruiser rushes off 1 or 2 bases with a marine support on the ground. And, you know, while I'm only playing gold leaguers, I think I've only lost 1 game with this strategy. It's ridiculous. They always try to focus down the battle cruiser and it just doesn't die. Have some fun sometime. Give it a shot. Walrus is finally starting to get that big, nice, strong mech army up and running. Has quite a bit of units up in the air, but look at how many units are also just ground shooting units. We have a lot of tanks, a lot of Hellions, and a lot of Hellbats. Almost 24 of those 3 units combined there. And so while this is a lot of Hunter-Seeker missiles, this is a lot of army investment that just won't be able to fight the army of Crank. Everything's going to be up in the air. Look, we have 4 more command centers coming out onto the map right now. Once again, that's great to be able to sack SCVs and just use mule calldowns instead as your main resource. Also, that gives you so many scans, you can always know where your opponent's army is at. And with these Sky Terran battles, that's very important. Pretty much with any Terran versus Terran battle, you always need to know where's my opponent, where am I going to get flanked, what position are his siege tanks in. That's going to give Crank a nice little advantage. The Walrus finally getting that maxed out point, finally getting some extra command centers out on the map. I feel like this is Walrus's chance to kind of stabilize and get his economy really up and strong so that after the big engagement, he'll have a chance to hopefully re-macro just a little bit and have a little bit better of a chance. Look at all the scans going down. There's 3 on one screen right there. Banshee going to be doing a little bit of work there, but immediately taken out by the volley from the Ravens. From the Vikings. Really not that many Vikings on the map right now, though. We are currently sitting at 9 Vikings for the Walrus. Well, I guess, oh wait, there we go. 20 for Crank. And I don't know if he realizes that we've gone into the Sky Terran transition, seeing this a massive swell of command centers here, going to just kind of get on top of this A move and take a lot of those out. All 4 cancel. That gives 1,200 resources back to the now 8,700 bank. One of the command center lifting off. That's actually going to spell doom for that command center. Where's the army for Crank? Well, I guess he's just content buying time for the moment, getting the last few of his units out. There are the point defense drones, going to be doing a little bit of work against the battle cruisers there. Battle cruisers can't fight against the point defense drones. Ravens leading the charge right there. And Crank actually taking quite a bit of damage from this. The 3rd base gets completely cleared out, but that was no longer a big functional mining base. It looks like the Walrus feeling like he can do this, feeling like he can take out the Axiom. Crank running up into the main base. Going to be sieging up fairly shortly here. There's the siege up, and Crank just falling all the way back. He's content. He knows he has time. He has 10 more Vikings coming out on the map. That'll give him some massive air superiority. Those Ravens only have so much energy, right? They can only throw down so many point defense drones. A few preemptive drones do go down. Oh, that is the wrong one. Where the hell is the zoom out? I don't even know anymore. It's Z. That's it. A lot of Hunter-Seeker missiles going down. The mech army, once again, a lot of it just shoots down. Hunter-Seeker missiles do connect, but there's so much in the air right now for Crank. Chasing down the Ravens and the Vikings. Almost no anti-air left. A few last Hunter-Seeker missiles go down. Doing his best to split up the army as best he can. A lot of those Vikings do die, but a lot of the supply left for the Walrus is in those Hellbats and siege tanks, and those are going down so quickly to the battle cruisers and the Banshees. Not a lot of anti-air player left for the Walrus right now. Let's see if he can still pull something off. I just don't think he can. Both players trying to remacro a little bit of the air army right now, but Crank with that starport advantage. Hellbats aren't going to do that much right now for the Walrus. He has 3 in production right now, but he needs more starports, but he doesn't really have that much of a bank to be able to start doing that big transition, and Crank is pushing out across the map right now, is getting 4 Thors. He's using everything he can right now, and with that strike cannon, they're actually fairly effective versus large air units like the battle cruisers, and, well, I guess, I don't know, what would be more effective against the Vikings? Probably just their basic anti-air attack, because that's, splash damage. A couple of the Vikings do manage to pick off one of the Banshees there. I guess I can zoom back in at this point to get a little bit more normal of a view. Chasing down across the map, though, I'm surprised they're not turning around trying to pick off a couple of these Ravens. At least that one. It's so low on health right there. One Hellbat does go down after getting a nice little shot off. It looks like we do have one Hellbat left over here, trying to kill off the SCVs that are creating the barracks and actually doing a very effective job of it. And that does hurt Crank in the end, because Crank, I mean, this air army is great and all, but it takes so long to remacro. You want to be able to pump out as many bio units as quickly as freaking possible, and that's the advantage that Crank has in starting out bios. He already has the 2-2 upgrades, so it's just a really short step away to get up to those 3-3, which you can see he's going for that 3 armor right now on both air and ground. Couple of the barracks going to get taken out by these Vikings. Not too big of a deal there from Crank, because Walrus at this point is fully committed into that mech play. We do have a little bit of harassment. The Siege Tank getting a couple of kills, going to be able to pick up a couple of more SCV kills. So many scans going down. Need to be careful with these Widow Mines here, not to get too clumped up. Oh, a couple of great shots off onto those Vikings. Another great shot goes off, and suddenly these Thors going to be very potent against low health Vikings. And Crank going to have to fall back, suddenly taking a huge supply disadvantage. One of the battle cruisers going to go down as well, and those are not cheap. Those are 400, 300 apiece. Crank, such a huge bank though, but doesn't have the production facilities. Apparently, not much of the production tab right now for him. Actually, he's trying to make the switch over into the barracks. In fact, he's just not making anything. I don't know what's going on right now for Crank. Making 6 SCVs, but he needs fighting units right now, not SCVs. 4 Banshees, 6 Vikings coming onto the field. I would love to see it. Does he have any barracks? He really doesn't. Needs to get some SCVs onto these barracks so he can get a little bit more production out. I think he lost a little bit more production in that last engagement than he was expecting when the Walrus pushed up into the main, and I think that's really hindering his ability to be able to get back into this game, and suddenly see Walrus taking a huge supply advantage. He still does have that remacro capability. Well, it took him a long time to max out, get to that 200. In the end, when he got there, he had the bases, he had the production facilities, and now he's able to take that once again. Oh, he lost the fusion core as well. He's able to take that macro advantage. If only he could take out a couple of the bases for the Walrus, for Crank as well, that would really solidify his position. As it is, it needs to be able to take a couple more bases of its own. He's down to pretty much, not almost, maybe even a half mining base at that, because he just doesn't have any SCVs right there. But it looks like it's time for Walrus to move out once again. 190 out of 200 over 120 right now. Walrus, a huge supply advantage once again. 144 army supply to just 65. Crank is going to push out, see if he can do a little bit of damage over here once again, but so many missile charges. Right now, Crank really doesn't have the supply. Words are not coming to me right now. Crank doesn't have the supply to just throw out that Widow Mine. Probably getting a nice shot off on these Vikings or the Banshees. I'm not really certain, was not paying attention there. But okay, yeah, the Banshee took a little bit of damage. Walrus, yeah, he doesn't care. I think at this point he realizes how big of an army advantage he has. He's seen most of the army now for Crank, and it's out across the map, which means that he can actually get himself in a nice defensive position, turn around, and engage the army of Crank. 6 barracks finally getting back up into the production. 3 have now finished, trying to add on tech labs into those, getting those nice beefy marauders out on the map. But here comes Walrus coming up that ramp. Looks like he's getting in a similar position he was in earlier. Looks like Crank once again out across the map. Crank just wants to go for the base trade right now. I don't know if he has the units to be able to do that though. This army is just so big right now for Crank. A couple of barracks are canceled there. He's going to need to lift these off. But even if he lifts them off, the Vikings will take care of them in the air. I think Walrus might just have this game. He has such a great positional advantage and such a great army advantage. It was looking grim for a little while there. I thought Crank was playing a great game with that one great engagement coming up, cutting off the production of Crank. Really gave Walrus that lead that he needed. Looks like Crank is going to be moving into that 4th base, scanning there, and going to see that, hey, there's not much there to deal with this. Going to be able to take out the last mining base of the Walrus, so keep in mind, this is all Walrus has right now. He cannot remacro anything. He doesn't have any mining bases remaining, and one of those command centers did just go down. Now he could try to lift off and reestablish the base, but his army is out across the map right now, so he wouldn't be able to defend that. right now, what you're seeing is what he's got. Crank still has a little bit of a bank, still has some mining bases. Where's all his orbital commands? It looks like most of them are dead, actually. So not even able to drop a lot of the mule power. There's one right there. There's two right there. So Crank does still have a bit of an economy. He is pretty badly supply blocked, though, at 126 over 95. And look at all this production once again going to die. Oh my gosh, that is so many Vikings. 2 medevacs go down immediately. That fusion core is going to die as well, dropping it down a couple of auto turrets there to be able to take care of the missile turrets. Yeah, we're seeing, you know, maybe a couple of the air units here go down. There was 1 point defense shooting down some of those missile turrets, but for the most part, Walrus still has that army advantage. Now, in the long run, long run, Crank has a slight advantage. He has all the mining bases. Walrus not even trying to establish any right now. Crank actually throwing down 17 supply depots to unsupply block himself. That was too many, because now look at his bank. He lost all of the money in his bank to be able to start remacroing his units right now. If he just like killed these 7 supply depots, stop them from building, I think he'd be in a slightly better position. Now we're seeing Walrus move down into this 4th base down here. That planetary fortress getting a couple of quick pot shots off, but again, all Walrus is really concerned with is taking out the production right now, and he's doing a wonderful, marvelous job of it. That planetary fortress, by the way, also going to fall, but the gas, not a big thing. That's more of a positional win for the Walrus, because Crank, once again, can't fall back and try to defend at that point. A lot of Marauders coming out on the map. It's going to be nice with the siege tanks. Marines wouldn't really do all that much right now, except for the fact that I think Walrus might have the air advantage there. Getting, ooh, a nice little Viking snipe. That's a great pickup there for Crank. Every little unit counts right now. Getting 2 or 3 Vikings, just the 1 or 2 of his own. But there's just not that many Vikings up in the sky right now. Crank getting some more Marines out on the map now, which he's going to need if he wants to try to take out all of these Vikings. Unfortunately, he also needs the Marauders if he wants to take out the Thors and the siege tanks. It looks like Crank's last little bit of production has been found here, and Walrus moving right on in. He's not being shy about this at all. Sieging up, Crank knows he's got to know he can't take this battle right here, but he has to. The Vikings are actually on the ground to try to win that ground war. All the Vikings die, which means the air superiority goes over the Walrus. Crank dropping below 100 supply, and that's going to be it, guys. Walrus is up by over double the supply of Crank right now. A pretty close game, all things told. The mech of Walrus in the end just being able to inch its way past Crank. Crank had the bases, but he just didn't have the production he needed in the late game there. And that is going to wrap it up, because I thought this was going to be like a 20-minute game, and I have calculus to do. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and until next time, folks, this is Coffee Break, signing out.